now we'll dive into the nutritional side. And we talked a little bit about it a little bit ago, but I really want to dive a little deeper. And we're going to talk about kind of the food side, the nutrition side, the supplement side, the things that go along with having a healthy body on the inside. So talk about the natural practices that naturopathic medicine does in regards to nutrition.
Yeah, so nutrition really is the key to health. It is the foundation of naturopathic medicine. Without a good diet, everything else is really just it's like building a foundation on sand, as they say. So supplements have a place, but they are called supplements because they are intended to supplement a healthy diet. So as a naturopathic physician, we really focus on diet as the key. Sometimes it takes a long time for a person to totally change and make that change, and that's when the supplements come into play while the person is attempting to transition. But the goal is to really just maintain health with diet alone. That's the ultimate goal. When it comes to children, it's just so important for maintaining health for them today, for their ability to succeed academically, for their ability to relieve any anxiety or behavioral issues that are occurring, but also for their future. We're just seeing more and more childhood obesity. We're seeing type 2 diabetes being diagnosed in children. And not only does that take a physical toll on the child, but it impacts their mind. It impacts the way that they feel, their thoughts. And then we have to think about what kind of implications that's going to have in 30 years when these children are adults. So the nutrition is really the most important part. It's just so important. And there's so many different types of healthy diet, but as long as the family is really trying to incorporate whole, fresh foods that don't have an ingredient list, things that just are around that perimeter of the grocery store, that's just a really great start. Just trying to incorporate more whole, fresh foods that don't come from a package. That's really kind of the best place to start.
And so for parents who grew up a certain way, who've had their kind of their eating lifestyle already built in, how do you encourage them? Because it has to start with the parents, of course. They can't really preach to the kids without actually doing it themselves, because they'll find it more difficult. I'd seem to think. What are your thoughts on helping the parents to change their own way of eating and then their way of shopping for their children?
Sure. So, it all depends on where that parent is. Everyone has a different level of understanding. If you take the parent who's really at the one end of the spectrum, who really is very unaware of healthy eating and finding that really difficult, I just simply start with education, really not doing too much change, especially the first few times we meet, really just educating, maybe giving some reading material about how diet impacts health, how diet ties into whatever issue is going on with their child, just starting the ball rolling with making connections about how important diet is. And once the parent then understands the importance, that's when we can start gradually making tiny changes for that kind of parent. Simple things like switching from white bread to whole grain bread, or switching from juice to water. We just try to make small changes. On the other end of the spectrum, you have parents who are really ready to change. They just don't know what to do. So when you have that kind of parent, then that's when we just simply go through the day, breakfast, lunch, dinner, all the snacks, and give them everything that they can do. Again, trying to make it as simple as possible. Everyone's busy. Everyone's short for time. So I recommend a lot of quick kind of meals using the slow cookers when possible, so that it's easy for parents. But it really starts with just educating. If a parent has grown up with their own eating habit, I really just start by gradually chipping away at what they have known to be true, and just providing them with the education about what we now know about how important the diet is, and especially tying it into whatever it is that they're bringing their child in for.
And how important, is the parent's encouragement to the child? You talked about like with type 2 diabetes or childhood obesity. These are things that I'm sure that when children are diagnosed with them or they realize that they're at that point, that can create a stress within the child itself. How do you encourage parents to, how do you encourage those conversations where they continue to encourage the kids, as opposed to, sometimes you have a parent who may say things as if a child grabs something off the shelf and like, well, you're overweight, please don't eat that. Like, how do you encourage parents to speak properly to their children so the children are encouraged to follow their diets?
Right, that's a great point. We really don't want to focus on children's weight. There's just so much going on with body image issues in boys and girls that you just want to keep focusing on being healthy. The more you say it to the child, the more you just keep making that a part of your daily dialect in the family, the more it really sinks in. So it's always positive, always saying that we want to be healthy, we want you to feel healthy, feel well. Those are really great words to use because they're positive. Overweight, sick, diabetes, these are negative words that will create a negative a relationship with food really in the child, that they will feel then guilty whenever they eat certain things. And we don't want to instill negative emotions. We want to try and create a positive relationship with the food, meaning that you talk to the child about how food acts as medicine, that you want to only eat foods that are healthy for you, that heal you. I also try to bring in the idea of color, and most children really like that idea. So the parent can talk about trying to eat one color or every color from the rainbow every day, something that's healthy. So your reds, your oranges, your yellows, it just makes it more fun. So really just trying to cultivate a positive relationship with the food using positive words. Occasionally, some parents, you do have to take an authoritative standpoint. If the child really is just kind of resisting on this, then occasionally the parent just has to say, you know what, this is the way it is, and this is how it's going to be. But you really try to get the child on board, be encouraging, and I think utilizing that positive imagery is one of the best way to do it.
Yeah, I think that's always such a tough thing when you have to kind of go to that transformative vocabulary where you have to change the way you say things. Because you've said things so
Yes,
long. It's like when you're dealing with toddlers and you try to get out of you try to break the habit of saying no to a child, like, oh, that's not yours, or
right.
so you have parents having to learn to say the right thing without saying the negative thing is always going to be it's always a difficult transition.
Yeah, yeah, and a lot of it comes from our own as parents. Right. Right. The way that we were developed as, from our own parents, and the way we have been modeled with food, it's important for us to kind of reflect on that as adults. Why do I have my relationship with food that I do? And do maybe I have a negative relationship with food, and a guilt associated with eating a certain way. Food relationship can really go quite deep psychologically. So it's also important for the parent to reflect on how their own feelings are about their food and try to change that within themselves so they can model for their child what is the healthy relationship with food.
Right. Yeah. Because I know, I grew up in the South. And so in the South, in the wintertime, you get, they always say, eat the heavier foods because they keep you warm. And it's like, then you're gaining all this weight
Yeah.
over over the winter. And then you have to deal with getting active again in the
Right.
summertime. So like you said, just having that relationship with food and maybe asking yourself, why do I eat this way? What's the purpose of it? If there's no
Yeah.
purpose, then I need to change it.
Yes. And that really helps then to make it more clear what you should model for your own children.
Right. Now, before you talked about proteins and the benefit of good breakfast, can we expand a little bit about the importance of having proteins to start your day off, and then what they do for a child throughout the course of the day in terms of their how they feel, the cognitive benefits, and any other benefits that are associated with just eating proteins in the morning and having really just good breakfast and a good lunch.
Yes. Yeah. So let's first talk about what happens when you don't eat protein. A lot of children don't have protein in the morning. The typical breakfast is cereal, which is all carbohydrate, or pancakes or waffles. Something most children in America are eating carbs for breakfast. So what happens in that case is the child's blood sugar goes up pretty quickly after that breakfast. They go off to school, and what happens is that blood sugar is going to crash somewhere in the middle of the morning. A couple of hours after eating that kind of meal, their blood sugar crashes. When the blood sugar crashes, that kicks out stress hormones. The body's natural response to dropping blood sugar is to kick out stress hormones. So it's no surprise that sometimes in the middle of the morning is when some children really start to have that trouble concentrating, focusing, sitting still, completing tasks. That might be because they're really sensitive to the amount of stress hormones that's being kicked out because their blood sugar is starting to drop. Then if you then have lunchtime, and that lunch is also a meal high in carbohydrate, the same thing happens in the in the afternoon period. So around 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, right at the middle of the afternoon, there again the blood sugar drops and they're having trouble focusing. They come home from school and now they're really just not able to sit still and sit and do their homework, of course, because their stress hormones by this point are through the roof. So protein really helps to blunt that. When you eat protein in the morning, your blood sugar does not spike the same way. It is much more gradual, the increase in blood sugar, and it will stay steady more throughout the day. So by the time lunchtime comes, your blood sugar is now gradually starting to come down. And then if you refuel with another protein rich lunch, again, the blood sugar is more gradually sustained until the end of the school day. So just sometimes I see just simply by getting more protein in the morning, protein at lunch, that sometimes alone can make a huge difference in the child's ability to focus at school because the blood sugar is not fluctuating so much. That's a
No,
big piece of it. The other piece of it is that, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead. I'll let you finish, and I'll jump in.
Sure. So the last part is that the protein also contains the precursors to many of the brain chemicals. Serotonin, for example, if people are familiar with serotonin, that's a very relaxing chemical in the brain. It helps to calm you down. Serotonin is derived from amino acids found in protein. So if you're not eating enough protein, it's possible that especially in children, that they might not be able to have proper levels of serotonin, which can also aggravate their ability to focus and sit down and just be calm during the day.
Wow, that's interesting because a lot of people kind of associate those sort of behaviors with ADHD or attention problems when the kids could be in a place where their diet's not correct. Is that right?
Yes, yes, and oftentimes that is the case.
Wow. Now, let's talk about healthy types of protein. What protein do you recommend, or do you have certain types that you think that are better than others for children to eat in the morning and during lunch?
Sure. So what we call complete proteins mean that it has all of the amino acids that the body needs from the diet. And the complete proteins tend to be the animal proteins. So, chicken, beef, turkey. So, even for the sake of convenience, having a few little as good quality as possible chicken sausages or turkey bacon, even if you do that along with what they're already eating. I know how difficult it can be to just change things all together. But if they're doing some waffles, all right, well, maybe try to give less waffle, try to make it a whole grain waffle so it's got some fiber. And then how about try adding some chicken sausage or turkey bacon on the side, something along those lines. It's quick and it will give a nice, good, healthy dose of protein. If the family, for whatever reason, maybe they're vegetarian, for example, well, then you could always do eggs. Either you hard boil them on the weekend, so you just have a few available ready to go, or you just scramble up a couple before school. That's another great option. If that just seems, like a little bit more work than is possible, it's also a great idea to make fruit smoothies with a little scoop of protein powder. It's probably the easiest way to get it in. And again, they can just sip on that while they're getting ready to go in the morning. You can make it with berries or a little bit of Greek yogurt. It has a great amount of protein. Nut butters, so a little bit of fruit with nut butter, peanut butter, almond butter also gives a nice healthy dose of protein and healthy fat. So there are some ways to make it fairly simple and quick for a busy family.
All right. And what are your thoughts on snacking throughout the day? I know a lot of children are grazers as opposed to meal eaters when they're younger. What are your thoughts on snacking?
Yeah, I think that's fine. We're trying to always encourage the body's natural desire for food. It's a good thing to not have your child eat too much when their body does not want them to eat. So if their body would rather have smaller portions throughout the day, that's fine. Just want to make sure that the type of snacks that the child is going for are healthy. There is a temptation to just buy crackers and chips and cookies, things that are quick. But again, those things are all just carbohydrate, usually simple carbohydrate made with white flour, which again spikes that blood sugar. So the best types of healthy snacks are, fruits, vegetables. You can serve the fruits or vegetables with hummus or nut butter to balance the blood sugar. Nuts and seeds, trail mix, all of those things make a great snack. But I think that's fine. Again, as long as the quality of the snack is appropriate, then if that's what the child's body is gravitating towards, then that's fine.
Thank you for listening to this session of TheraFit. If you like what you just heard, we hope you'll pass along our web address, holisticfamilysolutions.com, to your friends and colleagues. Be sure to check out the archive section of our website for previous podcasts. This has been an HFS production. Join us next time for another edition of TheraFit.